Captain Daehyun looked out from his ship bridge at the blue planet below. The Keth homeworld was burning. Giant council warships hung in space like metal monsters. They shot down fire and death at the peaceful cities. Daehyun had been friends with the Keth people for 5 years. They were kind and gentle. They had blue skin and big eyes. They never hurt anyone. They only wanted to help others and learn new things. The Keth had been the first aliens to become friends with humans. When Earth ships first came to this part of space, the Keth welcomed them. They shared their medical knowledge with humans. In return, humans taught them how to grow better food. It was a good friendship that helped both peoples. The Keth had amazing doctors who could heal almost any sickness. Humans had the best farmers in the galaxy. Together they made both worlds better places to live. Now the Galactic Council was killing them all. The Council said the Keth broke some old law about changing their bodies. But everyone knew this was not true. The real reason was simple. The Keth chose to be friends with humans instead of following Council orders. The Council did not like this. They wanted all aliens to fear and obey them. The Keth friendship with humans made other aliens think they could also be free. Admiral So-Young's voice came through the radio from Earth. Her voice shook with anger. She told all human ships to leave the system right now. The Council had said the Keth were a disease that had to be removed. So-Young did not want to give this order. Daehyun could hear her crying, but the Council fleet was too big. Hundreds of their ships surrounded the planet. The human fleet only had 20 ships. They could not fight and win. Commander Hee-jin sat at her station watching the battle computer. She saw the dots that showed Keith ships trying to escape. The Council ships were hunting them down one by one. Even the small ships carrying children were being destroyed. Hee-jin had visited the Keth schools. She had met the blue children who laughed and played just like human kids. Now they were dying in the cold of space. The biggest Keth city had 4 million people. Daehyun watched as the Council ships focused their weapons on it. The plasma beams were so hot they melted everything they touched. Buildings turned to liquid metal. The ocean began to boil. In just 1 hour, the city was gone. All those people were dead. Families who had welcomed humans into their homes. Scientists who had worked to cure human diseases. Artists who made beautiful music. All dead. Lieutenant Min-ho tried to count how many Keth were dying. His computer could barely keep up. The Council was not just attacking the cities. They were destroying everything. Farms, schools, hospitals, even the parks where Keth children played. The Council wanted to make sure no Keth could ever live again. This was not war. This was the murder of an entire people. The human ships had to watch and do nothing. If they tried to help, the Council would destroy them too. Then both humans and Keth would be dead. So-Young had made the hard choice to save what she could, but it felt like betraying their friends. Every human captain wanted to fight. They wanted to die trying to save the Keth, but dying would not bring the Keth back. Only living could give them a chance for revenge. A small Keth transport ship tried to reach the human fleet. It was damaged and leaking air. Inside were 50 Keth children and their teachers. Council fighters chased them. The transport was too slow to escape. Daehyun wanted to protect them, but his orders were clear. No fighting. Just watch and remember. The Council fighters destroyed the transport in a ball of fire. The children never had a chance. Dr. Yoonji was on one of the human ships. She had lived with the Keth for 2 years. She spoke their language. She knew their customs. She had been adopted into a Keth family as an honorary daughter. Now she watched her adopted family die. The house where she had eaten dinner. The garden where she had played with Keth children. The laboratory where she had worked with Keth scientists. All turning to ash and smoke. The orbital bombardment went on for 6 hours. When it ended, 3 billion Keth were dead. Their beautiful, blue planet was a burned rock. The oceans were boiling, the atmosphere was full of poison. Nothing could live there now. The Council had not just killed the Keth people, they had killed their entire world, made it so nothing could ever grow there again. The Council ships began to leave. Their job was done. They had sent their message to the galaxy. Any alien who became friends with humans would die like this. The council commander sent a message to the human fleet. He said the humans should remember what they had seen. If humans tried to make more alien friends, this would happen again. The council would kill any aliens who trusted humans. Admiral So Young gave the order to retreat. The human ships turned away from the dead world. As they jumped into hyperspace, Dae-hyun took one last look at the planet. Once it had been blue and green and beautiful, full of life and laughter and hope. Now it was gray and black and empty. The Keth were gone forever. Their music would never be heard again. Their children would never grow up. Their dreams had died with them. The journey back to human space was quiet. Nobody talked. The crews just sat and remembered their friends. Some cried. Some got angry. Some just stared at nothing. They had all failed the Keth. They had promised to protect each other, but when the time came, they could only watch the killing. The guilt was heavy on every human heart. But in that guilt, something else was growing. Something hot and hard and sharp. The council thought they had won. They thought they had scared the humans into being good and quiet. They thought the death of the Keth would make humans afraid to make more friends. They were wrong. The humans were not afraid now. They were angry. And human anger was a dangerous thing that the council had never seen before. So Young sent one last message to all human ships as they reached the edge of human space. She said they should remember this day, remember their friends who died. The council thought they had ended the problem by killing the Keth. But they had only started something much bigger, something that would not end until the council paid. For every Keth life they had taken, the war was coming and humanity would not forget. Director Taemin walked back and forth in the big war room under the city of Geneva. Giant screens showed all the human colonies in space. The news about the Keth had reached every human world. People were crying and angry and scared. The images were terrible. Whole cities turned to glass, space stations broken like toys. Millions of bodies floating in the dark between the stars. The few Keth who escaped brought videos of what happened. They showed the council ships shooting at schools and hospitals. They showed families running and screaming as the plasma fire fell from the sky. They showed children calling for their parents who would never answer. Every human who saw these videos felt sick and angry. The Keth had been good people who never hurt anyone. They did not deserve to die like this. Dr. Yoon-ji stood in front of the emergency meeting. She was the human who knew the Keth best. She had lived with them for 5 years. She learned their language and their ways. She became part of their families. Now tears ran down her face as she talked. She said the Keth had called her sister. When her research station lost air to breathe, the Keth had saved her life. They took her into their homes and made her family. But she could not save even one Keth child when they needed her. Yoon-ji showed pictures of the Keth family she knew. There was Dr. Velka, who had worked with her to find cures for human diseases. His 3 children who always asked her to tell stories about Earth. His wife who cooked special food that humans could eat safely. His parents who taught Yoon-ji their ancient songs. All dead now. All burned to nothing by council weapons. Yoon-ji could not stop crying as she talked about each person she had lost. General Kyung-soo hit the table with his fist so hard the computer screen shook. He was a big man with many scars from old battles. His face was hard like stone when he talked. He said the council fleet was much bigger than the human fleet. Their technology was hundreds of years more advanced than human technology. Their weapons were stronger. Their ships were faster. Their armies were bigger. But they had made one big mistake. They had shown humans exactly what kind of monsters they really were. Kyung-soo said if humans were going to die, then they would die fighting. But first they would make the council pay for every life they took. The general had fought in many wars. He knew how to hurt enemies who thought they were too strong to be hurt. The council thought humans were weak and scared. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Humans had been peaceful because they chose to be peaceful, not because they had to be. President Yoon Seo spoke to all the human worlds at the same time. Her voice went to every colony and space station and ship in human space. She said humans had tried to be diplomatic for 3 generations. They had followed council rules. They respected council borders. They tried to live in peace. The council answered human friendship with murder. They killed billions of innocent people just to send a message. Yunseo said today humans would stop being victims. Today they would become the nightmare that woke up the council at night. The pictures of the Keth massacre played on every screen in human space. Children hid their faces. Adults cried or got angry or both. Everyone understood that this could happen to them too if they did not fight back. The council had shown them what happened to friends of humanity. Now humanity would show them what happened to the enemies of humanity. In the deep space factories around Earth, Chief Engineer Jinwoo looked at the secret plans that had just been approved. Project Retribution was the code name. It meant building ships that humans had never built before. Not ships for exploring or trading or carrying people. Ships made for only one purpose: killing council fleets as fast and completely as possible. Jinwoo had been building peaceful ships his whole life. Now he smiled as he studied weapons that could crack planets in half. The plans called for ships 3 times bigger than anything humans had ever made. They would carry weapons that broke every treaty humans had ever signed with the council. But you could not break treaties with people who murdered your friends. Dead allies could not complain about broken promises. And living enemies would not get the chance to complain about anything. Jinwoo called his best workers. They had a war to build. All across human space, people began working. Mars started making armor that could stop council plasma weapons. The asteroid miners brought metals to build ship hulls. The peaceful farm worlds grew food for the biggest army humans had ever made. Research stations worked on new technologies. Even children helped by doing small jobs that freed adults to work on the war effort. Every human had the same goal now: make the council pay for what they did to the Keth. Commander Dongmin read reports from every human world. The response was bigger than anyone had hoped. Colonies that barely had enough people to run their farms were sending volunteers to fight. Rich worlds were giving all their money to buy weapons. Smart people were working day and night to design better ways to kill council soldiers. Old people who had not fought in decades were putting on uniforms again. The entire human species had united with a single purpose. Dr. Chang Wook came out of his secret laboratory with the results of 5 years of desperate work. Human scientists had been studying every piece of council technology they could find. They took apart council computers and weapons and engines. They learned how everything worked. Then they made it better. Human plasma cannons could fire twice as fast as council weapons. Human shields could absorb damage that would destroy enemy ships. Most important, human faster-than-light drives could cross the galaxy in half the time any council ship needed. The council had made another mistake. They thought humans were primitive and stupid. They thought human technology was weak. They were wrong. Humans were excellent at learning how things worked. They were even better at making things work better. And they were the best in the galaxy at making things that killed other things efficiently. The council had given humans years to study their technology. Now humans would use that knowledge to destroy them. In the space around Jupiter, Admiral Heywan met with his staff officers. They looked at the plans for the biggest attack in human history. 200 warships would hit 12 council bases at the same time. The attacks would be timed so no council base could warn the others. By the time the council realized humans were no longer hiding in their corner of space, it would be too late to stop them. Every human officer wanted to be part of the attack. They all wanted revenge for the Keth. They all wanted to hurt the council the way the council had hurt their friends. Heywan had to choose carefully. This first strike had to work perfectly. If it failed, the council would be ready for the next attack. There would be no second chance to surprise them. The fleet had to hit hard and fast and completely, like the council had hit the Keth. The preparations took 2 years. Every day, humans worked to build their war machine. Every night they dreamed of the Keth who had died. The blue people who had been kind and gentle and good, who had welcomed humans as friends, who had shared their knowledge and their homes and their lives, who had died screaming as council weapons turned their world to ash. The memory of the Keth kept humans working when they were tired. It kept them focused when the job seemed impossible. It reminded them why they were building this fleet of revenge. Finally, the day came when Admiral Haywan stood on the bridge of the first human warship built for killing. The UES Retribution was black as space and armed with weapons that could destroy moons. Around it floated the rest of the human fleet, 200 ships of war ready to bring justice for the Keth, ready to show the Council what happened when you murdered the friends of humanity. The age of human patience was over. The age of human anger had begun. Admiral Boram stood inside the giant shipyard that floated around the moon. Thousands of workers moved like busy ants over the skeleton of the biggest ship humans had ever built. The UES Vengeance was 3 times longer than any human ship before. Every inch of its hull was covered with weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains, missile tubes that could fire nuclear warheads, shield generators that could stop a star from burning. This was not a ship for exploring or trading. This was a ship built to kill Council fleets. The workers came from every human world. Engineers from Mars who knew how to build in zero gravity. Welders from the asteroid belt who could work in the hardest conditions. Computer experts from Europa who programmed the targeting systems. Artists from Earth who painted kill markings on the hull before the ship had even fought its first battle. Everyone wanted to help build the weapon that would avenge the Keth. Commander Dongmin walked through the command center reading reports from across human space. Every colony was working for the war effort. The mining stations in the outer system brought rare metals for ship hulls. The research labs on Titan designed new types of explosives. The farms on agricultural worlds grew food for millions of soldiers. Even the tourist stations had been converted to training camps for Marines. Humanity had become a single organism focused on one goal: destroying the Galactic Council. The transformation was amazing to see. Peaceful scientists were designing weapons of mass destruction. Gentle farmers were learning how to kill alien soldiers. Artists were painting camouflage patterns on starfighters. Children too young to fight were building ammunition in factories. Teachers were giving lessons on Council weak points instead of math and history. The entire species had embraced war like they had never embraced anything before. Lieutenant Colonel Songhua watched her Marine cadets practice their final training exercise. These were not the peacekeepers humanity had trained before. These men and women were killers. Every exercise was about boarding enemy ships and eliminating alien crews with maximum speed and violence. They practiced fighting in zero gravity. They learned the fastest ways to kill every type of Council species. They studied alien anatomy to find the weak spots. There would be no prisoners taken in this war, no mercy shown to any Council soldier. The Marines trained with weapons designed specifically for close combat in spaceships. Plasma rifles that could cut through alien armor, explosive charges that could breach ship hulls, portable shields that could stop enemy fire. Combat knives made from materials harder than diamond. Each Marine carried enough firepower to destroy a small building. They were taught to fight like demons and show no fear of death. The Council had made war on humanity. Now humanity would show them what human warriors could do. Dr. Chang Wook emerged from his research complex with prototypes of humanity new war technologies. 5 years of studying captured Council equipment had paid off. Human scientists had not just copied alien technology, they had improved it beyond what the Council thought possible. The new plasma weapons fired so fast they seemed like solid beams of light. The new armor could absorb energy that would vaporize normal materials. The new engines could jump between stars faster than any Council ship could follow. But the most important breakthrough was in targeting systems. Human computers could track and hit hundreds of enemy ships at the same time. Council fleets relied on formation fighting where ships protected each other. Human weapons could target every ship in a formation simultaneously and destroy them all in seconds. The Council would learn that their old tactics were useless against human technology. Their fleets would die before they knew they were under attack. Chang Wook showed Admiral Boram the crown jewel of human military research. The Nova torpedo was a weapon that used the same process that powered stars. 1 torpedo could destroy an entire Council battle station. 10 torpedoes could crack a moon in half. 100 torpedoes could make a star go supernova and destroy everything in a solar system. The weapon was so powerful that using it would announce to the galaxy that humans were no longer the peaceful species everyone thought they knew. In the training centers around Saturn, young humans learned to pilot the new generation of starfighters. These ships were faster and deadlier than anything in the Council arsenal. They could accelerate so quickly that normal humans would die from the pressure. So the pilots were modified with cybernetic implants that let them survive the extreme forces. They became part human and part machine, living weapons that could dance through enemy fire and strike with perfect accuracy. The fighter pilots called themselves the Keth Avengers. Every pilot had memorized the names of Keth families who died in the massacre. Before each training mission, they recited those names like a prayer. They flew with pictures of Keth children taped inside their cockpits. When they fired their weapons, they shouted the names of the dead. These pilots would never forget why they were fighting. They carried the memory of 3 billion murdered innocents with them into battle. Fleet Admiral HFY reviewed the final attack plans in his command bunker deep under the surface of Mars. The first strike would hit 12 Council installations simultaneously. Military bases, supply depots, communication relays, research stations. Each target had been chosen to cause maximum damage to Council operations. The attacks would be perfectly coordinated, so no warning could be sent to other Council forces. By the time any Council commander realized humanity was at war, it would be too late to mount an effective defense. The strike fleets were already moving into position. Each group of ships jumped to hyperspace at different times, so they would all arrive at their targets at exactly the same moment. The timing had to be perfect. If even one fleet arrived early, the surprise would be ruined. If even one fleet arrived late, the other attacks might fail. HFY had spent months planning every detail, every jump coordinate, every attack vector, every weapon firing sequence. Nothing was left to chance. Intelligence reports showed that the Council still considered humans to be a minor threat. Their forces near human space were small and poorly equipped. They expected no trouble from the species that had watched their allies die without fighting back. The Council military was focused on controlling rebellions in other parts of the galaxy. They had left their border with humanity lightly defended. It was a mistake that would cost them dearly. Captain Su Jin stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution and looked at her crew. Every officer had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not survive. Every sailor had asked to be part of the first strike against the Council. They were not motivated by glory or conquest. They fought for justice. They fought for revenge. They fought so the Keth would not have died for nothing. The crew was quiet and focused. They knew they were about to make history. The moment of truth was coming. 2 years of preparation. 2 years of building and training and planning. 2 years of grief and anger and determination, all leading to this moment when humanity would announce to the galaxy that the age of Council dominance was ending. The peaceful species that had begged for acceptance was gone. In its place stood something harder and colder and infinitely more dangerous. The Council had created their own destroyer when they murdered the Keth. Now that destroyer was ready to begin its work. HFY gave the final order to all strike fleets. The message was simple and filled with meaning that every human understood. Remember the Keth. Avenge the innocent. Show no mercy to those who show no mercy to others. The greatest military operation in human history was about to begin. The Council would learn that there were worse things than death waiting for those who committed genocide. They would learn what happened when you made an enemy of humanity. They would learn why the Keth had chosen humans as friends instead of the Council as masters. The Council monitoring station at Proxima Threshold had watched the edge of human space for 30 years. It was a boring job for the alien crew inside. Humans never caused trouble. They stayed in their small corner of the galaxy and minded their own business. The station commander Yex Prime had told his crew many times that humans were too scared to even think about crossing Council borders, especially after they saw what happened to their Keth friends. Sensor operator Vex 9 sat at his console watching the deep space scanners. The screens showed the usual background noise of cosmic radiation and solar wind. But today, there was something different. The computer kept showing strange readings at the very edge of sensor range. Vex 9 ran diagnostic tests on his equipment. Everything seemed to be working normally. He decided the readings must be equipment malfunction. Humans were too frightened to venture beyond their designated borders. The truth was very different. Admiral Sujin's fleet had been moving toward the monitoring station for 3 days. 12 human warships used their advanced stealth technology to approach undetected. The black hulls absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. The engines ran silent to avoid heat detection. The ships moved like ghosts through space. Death was coming to Proxima Threshold, and the Council crew had no idea. Admiral Sujin stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution watching the tactical display. Her target was a large space station armed with defensive weapons and protected by energy shields. Under normal circumstances, it would be a tough fight even for a human battle fleet. But these were not normal circumstances. The Council crew was relaxed and unprepared. They had no idea that the species they considered harmless had spent 2 years building weapons specifically designed to kill them. The strike fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect attack formation. 12 sleek black ships appeared like avenging demons around the surprise Council station. Their weapons were already charged and ready to fire. The targeting computers had locked onto every vital system on the enemy station. Plasma cannons rotated to point at shield generators. Missile tubes opened to reveal nuclear warheads. The human fleet was ready to deliver the first blow in humanity war of revenge. Commander Wu Sung coordinated the attack from the tactical center deep inside the flagship. His voice was calm and professional as he gave the order that would start the war. All ships weapons free. Show them what happens when you murder our friends. The words were simple, but every human in the fleet understood their meaning. This was not just a military attack. This was justice for 3 billion innocent souls who had died screaming under Council weapons. The plasma barrage lasted exactly 47 seconds. Human weapons fired with mechanical precision. Every shot hit its target. The Council station defensive shields flared bright blue as they tried to absorb the incoming energy. For a few seconds, it looked like they might hold. Then the concentrated fire of 12 human warships overwhelmed the generators. The shields collapsed in a cascade of sparks and lightning. The station hull was exposed to the full fury of human weapons. Council plasma cannons tried to return fire, but the human ships were already moving. Their engines were more powerful than anything the Council had seen. They accelerated and turned with impossible speed. Enemy weapons fired at empty space where human ships had been milliseconds before. The Council gunners could not track targets that moved so fast. Their shots went wide while human weapons found their marks with perfect accuracy. The station communication array exploded in a ball of fire. The power generators overloaded and died. The life support systems failed. The artificial gravity shut down. In less than a minute, the monitoring station went from a functioning military base to a helpless wreck, drifting in space. 300 Council personnel were trapped inside a metal tomb, with no power and no air and no hope of rescue. Major Kang Ho led the boarding party that secured the station data cores before the structure completely collapsed. His Marines moved through the damaged corridors like professional killers. They wore full battle armor and carried weapons designed for close combat. When they encountered surviving Council crew members, they showed the same mercy the Council had shown to Keth children. None at all. The Council soldiers died quickly and efficiently. The intelligence they recovered was beyond their hopes. Oh yeah. Data cores contained detailed information about 12 more Council facilities in the region. Complete tactical assessments of human military capabilities, guard schedules for important installations, and most importantly proof that the Keth genocide had been planned months in advance. The Council had not simply reacted to an alliance threat. They had deliberately orchestrated the massacre as a lesson to other species. Kang Ho found the station commander Yex Prime trapped in his command center. The alien was injured, but alive. He begged for mercy and promised to surrender valuable information in exchange for his life. Kang Ho looked at the alien for a long moment. Then he showed the commander images of Keth children burning in space. He asked if the Council had shown mercy to those innocents. When the alien had no answer, Kang Ho pulled the trigger. The boarding party worked quickly to strip everything of value from the dying station. Computer files, weapon technology, navigation charts, communication codes, everything that might help human forces in future battles. They also found personal belongings of the Council crew, photos of alien families, letters from home, evidence that these enemies were people with lives and loved ones. But the humans felt no sympathy. The Council had shown no mercy to Keth families. They would receive the same consideration. As the human Marines finished their work, explosions began tearing the station apart. The structural supports failed under the damage from the initial attack. Sections of hull peeled away like flower petals. Atmosphere vented into space carrying debris and bodies. The monitoring station that had watched human space for 3 decades was becoming an expanding cloud of metal fragments and frozen gas. Admiral Su-Jin watched the destruction from her command chair. She felt no satisfaction in the killing. This was not about enjoying violence. This was about sending a message to the Council leadership. The species they thought was weak and frightened had become something much more dangerous. Humanity had crossed the line from victim to predator. There would be no going back from this moment. The strike fleet prepared to jump back into hyperspace. Their mission was complete. The first blow had been struck, but this was only the beginning. 11 more human fleets were attacking Council targets at this exact same moment. By the time any Council commander realized what was happening, it would be too late. The surprise offensive would destroy dozens of installations before the Council could mount any response. As the ships charged their hyperspace engines, Su-Jin opened a channel to her entire fleet. Her words would be recorded and played for human forces throughout the war. First blood to Earth. The Council thought they were safe behind their borders, protected by their treaties and their superior numbers. Today, they learned that predators can become prey. This is only the beginning. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving nothing behind but wreckage and death. The monitoring station at Proxima Threshold was gone. Its crew was dead. Its mission was ended. But the intelligence it had gathered, over 30 years of watching human space, was now in human hands. The Council had been studying humanity for decades. Now humanity would use that knowledge against them. News of the successful attack spread quickly through the human fleet. Every ship received confirmation that the first strike had worked perfectly. The Council monitoring network was blind. Their early warning system was destroyed. Human forces could move freely without being detected. The element of surprise that would be so critical in the coming battles was preserved. The war had begun, with a single plasma barrage lasting less than a minute. 300 Council personnel were dead. 1 military installation was destroyed. It was a small beginning, but it announced to the galaxy that humanity had chosen war over peace. The species that had tried diplomacy and cooperation and friendship had been forced to become something darker. The Council had taught humans that kindness was weakness. Now humanity would teach the Council what strength really meant. Deep in space, the wreckage of Proxima Threshold drifted cold and dark. It was a monument to Council arrogance and human determination, the first casualty in a war that would reshape the galaxy. The opening note in humanity's symphony of revenge. The Council had written the first movement when they murdered the Keth. Now Earth children would compose the rest, and the final movement would be played in the ruins of Council civilization. High Counselor Thex Prime called the emergency meeting to order in the Great Council chamber on Capital Prime. His 4 eyes looked around the room at the other Council leaders. Everyone looked scared and confused. Reports were coming in from all across Council territory. Human fleets had attacked 17 installations at the same time. Every target was destroyed. Every crew was dead. The humans had not left a single survivor to tell what happened. The Council chamber was the most important room in the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of alien species had gathered here for centuries to make laws and settle disputes. The great dome above showed the stars of Council space. Each light represented worlds under Council control. Billions of creatures who obeyed Council commands and followed Council rules. But today those lights seemed to flicker with uncertainty. Intelligence. Director Quinn 7 stood at the center of the chamber presenting the battle analysis. Her tentacles moved nervously as she spoke. The tactical computers had run every calculation possible. Human fleet strength was estimated at 200 warships minimum, maybe twice that number. Their weapons were equal or better than Council. Technology. Most scary of all, they had faster-than-light engines that could outrun any Council ship. The implications were terrifying to think about. For decades, the Council had dismissed humans as a minor species barely worth watching. Their technology seemed primitive. Their fleets were small, their colonies were weak. But the attacks proved everything was wrong. Humans had been hiding their true capabilities while secretly building a war machine designed to destroy the Council. Admiral Neck's superior stood at his war table studying tactical displays. Red dots showed where human fleets had struck. The pattern revealed careful planning and perfect intelligence. Every target had been chosen for maximum strategic damage. Communication relays that connected distant sectors, supply depots that fed Council fleets, research stations working on new weapons, training bases for elite troops. Humans had not attacked randomly. They knew exactly which targets would hurt the Council most. The Admiral was the Council's greatest military mind. He had won battles against rebel species across the galaxy. He had put down uprisings and crushed resistance movements. But he had never faced anything like this. The humans were not fighting like desperate rebels or angry colonists. They fought with the discipline and planning of a species that had been preparing for this war for years. Every move showed professional military thinking. Defense Coordinator Zil Prime highlighted the strategic nightmare facing the Council. They controlled thousands of star systems spread across hundreds of light years. Military bases and industrial centers and civilian colonies were scattered everywhere. With human ships able to move faster than Council vessels, they could strike anywhere before defenses could respond. The Council fleet would have to spread thin, trying to protect everything. Humans could concentrate their forces and pick targets at will. Worse yet, the Council had no idea where the human fleets would strike next. The attacks had come without warning from empty space. No scout ships had been detected. No communications had been intercepted. No spies had reported unusual activity. The humans had somehow moved major battle fleets into position without being seen. If they could do it once, they could do it again. Every Council installation was now at risk. The debate in the Council chamber grew heated as different species blamed each other for the intelligence failure. The Curians claimed their monitoring stations had detected nothing unusual. The Veltari insisted their spy networks had found no evidence of human military buildup. The Hex Oni demanded to know how an entire species could hide 200 warships. Nobody had answers, but everyone had accusations. High Counselor Thex Prime tried to restore order, but the panic was spreading. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. Some demanded immediate retaliation against human colonies. Others called for negotiation before the situation got worse. A few suggested evacuating important installations until better defenses could be organized. The unity that had held the Council together for centuries was cracking under pressure. As the massive human armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the capital system, their black ships arranged in perfect battle formation. Admiral Yon Sik commanded from the flagship UES Keth's Revenge, leading every combat vessel humanity could field in the war's final battle. 2 years of relentless warfare had brought them here, to the heart of Council space, ready to deliver final judgment for the genocide of their allies. President Nari's final transmission echoed across both fleets as the human armada approached the heavily fortified capital world. You murdered 3 billion innocent souls to send us a message. Today we send our reply. The Council's assembled fleet outnumbered the human force 3-1, but their crews fought with the desperation of the doomed while humanity's warriors carried the cold fury of the righteous. The battle raged for 18 hours, turning the space around Capital Prime into a graveyard of shattered hulls and expanding plasma clouds. Captain Ji-hoon's destroyer squadron punched through the Council's defensive line, their concentrated fire crippling the massive command dreadnought. Commander Sujin led her Marines in boarding actions against Council ships, showing the same mercy the Council had given to Keth children. Absolutely none. As the Council fleet disintegrated under humanity's assault, High Counselor Thex Prime broadcast a desperate surrender offer from his dying flagship. Admiral Yon Sik's response was broadcast across the galaxy, ensuring every species heard humanity's final judgment. You could have chosen coexistence. You could have honored the friendship we offered. Instead, you chose genocide. Today, you Learn that humanity never forgets, never forgives, and never stops hunting those who harm our friends. The orbital bombardment of Capital Prime lasted exactly 6 hours, the same time it had taken to exterminate the Keth. As the Council's homeworld burned, human ships transmitted the images across the galaxy, ensuring every species understood the lesson. When you murder humanity's friends, humanity comes calling with warships and vengeance. The Galactic Council had written their own ending in the ashes of innocent worlds, and Earth's children had simply delivered the final chapter. In the smoking ruins of galactic civilization, humanity stood alone among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the species that other races would forever remember, as the ones who made genocide too expensive to attempt. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of human justice had begun.